Chapter 4, The Chaos Agents Universe.
Yeah.
Oh, hey!
Oh, hey, Peter. Hey, Arka.
Hey! Are you guys show me the show tell?
Yeah.
Yep. So you know Jeremy.
Yeah. Always good to see you.
This is Peter O. This is Arka.
Peter.
Peter's a
Nice.
great first
Good,
name.
great name. Great name.
P1, P2, got it. And Peter's built the whole. Peter has built the whole world of chaos agents that Jeremy has then brought to life with his art. So, guys, do you want to tell us a little bit before we get started with the tournament about the world of chaos agents?
Yeah, you're gonna love this. Hey, Peter, why don't you start from the beginning?
Throughout the worlds of the firmament are scattered the shards of chaos. Condensed crystals of primordial matter that hold immense value and power. Give me some. Chaos shards are at the heart of these worlds' economies, weapons, and recreational mood enhancers. And from these many worlds have arisen formidable races, each with its own need of the shards, and each with a determination to serve up some righteous pain. These big, cunning, treacherous, proud, and occasionally valiant heroes, they are the Chaos Agents.
So we began with this idea that we wanted to build a really rich world behind the game. And that would give us opportunities to collateralize the IP and story and other kinds of medium. So I had this huge tapestry that I had an opportunity to help develop. And what I did is I started with an origin story. We call it the firmament. There's this idea, not dissimilar from the Big Bang, that everything began with a sort of dark energy, a dark matter that exploded outward. And then we use these cosmic forces of time and gravity to start to explain how the races evolve, the musculature, the densities of bone and those sorts of things, further and farther from the center point of the firmament. And with that, we developed the worlds and started to populate those with races. And once I had sort of the initial world Bible in place, then it was time to really start engaging with Jeremy and our team and start to give all of that a really great visual identity.
Yeah, when I read Peter's World Bible, I was super excited. You know, there was so much to dig into, and one of the first things we did was start exploring, the different treatments that the characters could be. Do we want to go more 1980s kind of art? Do we want to go more anime? Do we want to go more fantasy, more sci-fi? And we ended up kind of falling into this really nice fusion where there's elements of anime, there's elements of fantasy, and elements of sci-fi, which I think really fits our world of chaos agents.
Yeah, one of the red threads, as we say sometimes, that we needed to have, and that Arka and John, we would spend time talking about with them, is this notion that there needed to be this sense of humor. So that there's a richness to the world that you could play against in a lot of ways, but part of the development of the sort of world Bible and what we wanted to pull through into the characters is this notion of fun, the chaos, right? The devil may care attitude that Richard has talked about. And so when we started doing the ideation on the characters, it was important to think about how they would be funny, both in what they might say, how they might look, and the animations that we would build for them that would kind of pull through that humor.
Yeah, definitely. At each stage, we'll look at stuff and say, well, that's starting to feel too realistic. Let's go more cartoony, more exaggerated, more over the top, which you'll get to see in the VFX, the animations, and the character designs, which might be a nice place to go into. You want to talk about I think one of the first characters we kind of nailed was a Clausius?
Yeah, so one of the character races in the firmament is the Clausius, and they are a race that is sort of centered on telekinetic abilities of the mind. They're a sort of race that cares a lot about balance in the firmament, so they want to be sure that there's fairness in the competition for the shards and those sorts of things, because they're worried about the sort of potential cascade effects of too much shard collection or too much power. So they're a very sort of balanced thinking race. And so we wanted something that was really sleek and kind of convey that sense of like real mental acuity.
Yeah, this is, I think, a really fun sci-fi kind of haughty race, and I just love the Clausius. Even on their helmets, there's elements which help enhance their
telepathy and telekinetic ability. Yeah, I don't know that this is a perfect analogy, but imagine that the kind of put downs you'd get from a Clausius is something like you'd get from Fraser Crane.
Yeah.
Like it's so smart that some people won't know they're being put down.
Yeah. There's still total, badass fighters. One of their ultimate animations.
Oh, yeah.
You'll see her. She hovers up into the air. It does a 360 with her staff and just blasts everyone around this AOE damage spell, which I'm excited for people to get to see.
One of the cool things when Jeremy and his team of artists began to pull these together, they took elements and really sort of exaggerated them and made them fun. The staff that you'll see in some of the imagery, it's got shards that are seem like they're held in suspension. These are just fun ways to sort of pull through the idea of their ability to control with their mind, even in their weaponry.
We'll talk a little bit about Kalimur.
Yeah.
Home planet.
Yeah, so that's their home world. We thought about them as a race that's very elegant. They've got a lot of technology, but they use that in service of a kind of architecture in their world that is beautiful. It's not meant to convey strength. It's meant to convey elegance.
Yeah, it was one of the, I think it's one of the most beautiful environments we've done for all the races. But it's really nice. It kind of has this elven vibe to it. Yet it's also sci-fi and tech and these glowing lights and hovering buildings. And so there's this magic. It's like, is it sci-fi? Is it magic? I can't tell. So it's an interesting blend again.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the things that pulled through in the imagery you'll see of Kalimur is there's a thing called the Orullian tree that's got a sort of violet crimson foliage. And these little touches that just really make this world unique and bring together the sci-fi and the fantasy. For me, it was so exciting to see Jeremy bring all of this stuff to life because it did such a great job.
Yeah, and even now we're trying to solve, what are the gameplay issues? Are they going to teleport to these floating buildings, or how's that going to work? There's still a lot.
Those are fun gameplay problems that we'll leave for the engineers.
Yeah, what about the Massieu? They're one of my favorites.
So I know that John's very fond of this particular race. They're an expansionist race, so they're really all about the authority and the power that they can command, and so they're in. To take that into the game, it'd be all about victory, any victory condition really, but they're really going to be at the forefront. Their sort of short name is the Gallants, so they're really about, and they mean that, so it's not just a tongue-in-cheek, like they try and do things with a lot of bravado and show.
Yeah, I always saw these guys as sort of, Three Musketeers, kind of pirates, sword fighters. Yet again, we're like, how do we just go beyond that and add the sci-fi elements and give them laser swords? And I love in his animation, the male just has this. He throws his dagger, but then magically another one appears. So he has infinite daggers to throw. Is fun and chaotic and silly, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, there was inspiration for this race from sort of French background, even down into the battle dress that the female wears and the sort of cape that the male wears. Really fun pull through there. And their home world that we're looking at now is Prevarus. Prevarus is meant to communicate just in its visuals the idea that it is large, that they're kind of the Romans of the firmament. They're really trying to build their empire.
Yeah, I just love the massive scale here, and you can see the little Massieu in the foreground. And also like how, whatever their flags are of their castle, they also wear it, as their scarf, to represent their battlement and where they're from.
Yeah, that was a great touch. I remember when I was sort of riding up the race, I had this idea that one of their ornaments is the scarf, and you never know exactly what's going to work with the characters when they get to game. But Jeremy's team brought that in, and I think it's such a distinctive part of this race. It's fun.
And then, of course, we've got the Mahdi, which I think are pretty unique in their design.
Yeah, we were talking about this just before. When I was thinking through the initial set of races, I really wanted there to be diversity. And by that I mean I wanted a really, really big guy, a really small person, someone that looked like a beast, others that looked like they were, very heady, very much about the mind. So that sort of influenced how I thought about the musculature, and I made an effort to tie that to their place in the firmament. So there was logic and rationale for all of that. And the Mahdi turned out to be what looks like a big sort of ape-like race. You'd think they're bruisers. But because of that, I deliberately did what I call counter-programming, which just means this particular race is a thoughtful race. They have a spiritual connection to the firmament origin story. So they're not what you think they are. But tell them about the animation on this guy.
Yeah, I was dying to tell him, and that's why I love what you do. It's always not this, but that. It's zig and zag. It's, so it keeps you surprised, and when we talk about like this guy's advanced or ultimate attack, one of the first ideas Peter has is like, what if they're rolling like a bowling ball? They'll hit the crowd and their AoE is everyone is stunned. And the animation is great, and we'll get to show it to you here.
Yeah, Jeremy, when I first saw the first animations for this, the character kind of runs almost three-legged, right, on one big, huge forearm and fist, and then two short, stubby legs. But then when he throws himself into this ball, I just thought, oh man, that was so delightful and so funny.
Yeah, delightful and fun is always trying to make sure we capture that.
And their world, which is Grovaws, is kind of what you might think a race like this would germinate from. It's closer to the origin point of the firmament, which means that there's a lot of gravity, there's a lot of time energy, and because of that, they sort of grew these bodies, evolved with these bodies that could sustain in that kind of an environment. And it very much looks like that when you see what the team has come up with.
Yeah, then we have the Tsallis designs, which Job Bear was talking to me earlier. He goes, it looks like they're probably at a similar distance in the firmament because they're both stocky. And I was so impressed that he could know their origin in the universe just upon the character design.
That's cool. I'd never heard that.
Yeah, he told me
like
just
that.
second,
Yeah, the Tsallis, again, I very sort of rudimentarily, I kind of was thinking in my head, how tall are these characters? How wide, those sorts of things. The Tsallis, I needed one that was small and hunchy, and also that would sort of occupy their world in a different way. And this particular race, they are subterranean. They build these in these huge grottos underneath.
Jorsham.
Yeah, Jorsham. Hopefully we're going to get to show you that
right here.
that image. They've got these battle arenas down in the earth. One of the ways that they contest with one another. And for me, even though I like the Mahdi race, like that's kind of a favorite, as an environment, those subterranean grottos just call to me.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, if I was down in the caverns and saw these guys coming at me, they would scare me for sure.
And the neat thing about these guys, and I know it's a future thing, but they have this great howl, which is part of like how they communicate and battle. It's a unique part of their sort of battlefield technique. I'm really excited for that because I'm a sound guy.
Yeah, it's coming in the next batch of animations. And that leaves us with the Brillouin, which I think are a pretty cool, kind of mysterious, in the shadows kind of race, which is an archetype I love.
Yeah, they are. What's interesting is that we started talking about the IP and this idea that we could sort of create other ways to participate in it. We've got a game, an RPG Discord game, it's called Chaos Stories, and the Brillouin are at the center of that because it takes place on their home world, which is called Altareth, and it's sort of populated by these trade unions, which are the sort of governance of that particular world. And these guys are all about how they can do a shady deal, how they can, the commerce is their driving function. So you can imagine that in battle, what they care about is shard collection.
Yeah, definitely. Here's kind of this lineup of all 5 of them. I love this key art here. If you look at all 5, which would be your favorite, Peter?
It's the Mahdi, just because I like the fact that you expect him to be kind of a thick-headed, brute, but he's not that at all. But obviously formidable.
Yeah. I think I was looking at Dusana, the Clausius. I really love her. I think what it was early on, it kind of nailed the amount of tech we were going to put in our character designs and just her attitude, and she's really good at shard collecting also in game.
Yeah, I have to say, for me, that was one of the great points of collaboration early on, is because you and I got on some calls, and how exactly I was thinking about it. I hadn't thought through how to bring the tech into those, and when you brought that in, it really completed the character. So it was that first moment oh, this is going to be a great marriage as we go forward.
Also, I think one of you can look at these and talk about them and learn all the lore, but the best way to experience them, I'm finding, is really when you're in gameplay and playing the game.
Yeah, just today, literally minutes ago, got to do some multiplayer, and this sounds like a line, but it was so much fun. People are going to love this. All of this backstory is going to make the play test and people who get into this game, I think, just love it.
The excitement is at its peak for the Chaos Agents Playtest Launch Tournament. Will Peter hold his own against veteran Chaos Brokers in the upcoming Chaos Agents Tournament?